betrayal, revenge, and redemption. My promotion nightmare. The memory still makes my blood run cold. His laughter echoing in the break room, laced with smugness, as he confessed to sabotaging my career. My coworker tried to stop talk on my promotion and laughed in my face when I confronted him. He was exposed and lost his job. His shock was priceless. And I work as a senior project manager for an architectural firm in Chicago. Our office is one of those glass and steel places downtown where everyone wears dark colors. I've been at this firm for nearly 10 years. It was finally paying off because I was in line for a promotion. A big one, director of projects. Now, there were a few people in the running, but the real competition was Dylan. Let me tell you about Dylan. He joined the firm 3 years ago, and since day one, he's been the kind of guy who makes everything about him the loudest in the room. Charming in that cocky, overconfident way. Always quick to throw someone under the bus if it served him. And, of course, he made sure everyone knew he was gunning for the same promotion. Well, I'd been working my tail off, while Dylan had been cozying up to people, cracking jokes, and swooping into projects at the last minute to get his name on them. Typical. A couple of weeks before the promotion decision, things started getting weird. Files I'd saved mysteriously vanished. At first, I thought I was just stressed and maybe didn't save everything correctly. But then, one afternoon, I'm grabbing a coffee in the break room when Dylan's voice carries over. Jordan has no clue what's coming. The poor guy probably thinks he just forgot to save his work. Classic. He chuckled, and Pete laughed too. I could feel my blood boiling. Dylan was messing with my files. I didn't know how yet, but I knew it was him. I decided to be a little more strategic. The next day, I waited until after our project meeting. I kept my voice calm. Hey, Dill, got a second? He looked at me, giving me this overly innocent smile. Sure thing, Jordan. What's up? I noticed some of my files have been disappearing from the shared drive. I said, keeping my tone as neutral as I could. Do you know anything about that? Oh, really? That's tough, man. Maybe you need to back up your stuff better. Can't be too careful with these systems. They're glitchy, you know. That smug look on his face was infuriating. He was practically daring me to lose my cool. I clenched my jaw, nodding slowly. Thanks for the advice. As I walked away, I heard him chuckling to himself. But that wasn't the end of it. Over the next week, Dylan ramped things up. He was going into my files and changing numbers around, making subtle errors that could cost me dearly in front of Aaron, our boss, who doesn't tolerate mistakes. Oops, sorry, better luck next time. He practically taunted me with his eyes. Finally, after yet another incident, I couldn't take it anymore. I had a friend named Amy, and I owed her a favor after I helped her brother land an internship at the firm. So I pulled her aside and explained the situation, asking her to look into the access logs for my files. She raised an eyebrow. You think Dylan's messing with your stuff? I know he is. I just need the proof. All right, give me a date. But if anyone asks, this conversation never happened. The next morning, I got a message from Amy. She asked me to come down to her desk. As soon as I walked in, she closed the door, looking more serious than I'd ever seen her. You're not going to like this, she said, pulling up a screen. Dylan's been accessing your files almost daily. It's all here in the log. He's been deleting things, changing things around, and he tried to cover his tracks, but he wasn't as careful as he thought. I stared at the screen, my proof, but I knew I had to be smart about this. If I went in guns blazing, Dylan would probably spin it into some story about jealousy or competition. I decided to confront him one more time. I waited until we were both in the break room with a couple of other people around. Hey, Dylan, I said, leaning against the counter. So, I talked to IT about those missing files. He looked up, his smile thawed to him for just a second. Oh, yeah, what did they say? They found out who's been deleting them. I said, turns out it was you. There was a beat of silence, and then he laughed, overly loud. Jordan, really? You're going to accuse me of that? I think you're just looking for someone to blame for your own mistakes. Oh, I've got proof. I said, it logged every single time you access my files. I'm just letting you know because I thought maybe you'd want to explain yourself before I take this to Aaron and HR. He narrowed his eyes, the fake smile slipping. You wouldn't do that. Try me, I retorted. He gave me a long, hard stare. Do whatever you want, Jordan. No one's going to believe you. He walked off, trying to keep up his swagger. I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of satisfaction. That evening, I sent an email to Aaron and copied HR, attaching the log files Amy had sent me. I kept it professional, laid out the facts, and said I was bringing this to their attention because I was concerned about the integrity of the team. I didn't demand anything or ask for Dylan's termination. I just presented the evidence. 2 days later, I got called into HR. Aaron was there, looking unusually serious, and she gestured for me to sit down. Jordan, thank you for bringing this to our attention. She began, her tone firm but professional. We've reviewed the files, and there's no question that Dylan was sabotaging your work. Effective immediately, we're terminating his employment. I didn't know what to say. Relief washed over me, and I managed a simple thank you. I appreciate that. Aaron nodded, leaning forward slightly. Jordan, this situation aside, you've demonstrated a lot of resilience and professionalism through all of this. We'll be meeting with the board next week. Hearing that was the cherry on top. Dylan was gone and I was still in the running for the promotion. As I left HR, I could feel people glancing at me, whispering. The news about Dylan's firing had spread, but I kept my head down, not feeding into the gossip. The next week, I presented the Blackwell project to the board. It went perfectly. When I finished, Robert, one of the board members, said, Jordan, this was impressive work. Aaron has spoken highly of you, and it's clear you've handled a difficult situation with integrity. We'd like to offer you the position of Director of Projects. My heart felt like it was going to burst. Thank you. I won't let you down. After that, my career took off. I was running the biggest projects, leading teams, and for the first time, felt like I was where I belonged. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected message. It was from Dylan. Hey, Jordan, I know I don't deserve a reply, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I messed up, and I've been paying for it ever since. I realize now I let my ego get the best of me, and it's cost me everything. I know you have no reason to help me, but if you could give me a reference, even just a basic one, I'd be grateful. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to laugh in his face, but another part of me felt almost sorry for him, almost. I took a deep breath and replied, Dylan, I appreciate the apology, but I can't give you a reference. I hope you understand why. This is a consequence of choices you made, and it wouldn't be right for me to vouch for something I can't support. I wish you the best. I hit send and let out a long breath. Dylan needed to understand that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are permanent. As the months went by, I grew more confident in my new role. I took on larger projects, initiated a mentorship program to help junior employees avoid the kinds of mistakes Dylan had made, and built a tight-knit team based on trust and collaboration. Erin eventually retired, and to my surprise, she recommended me as her successor. The journey to that moment was heartfelt and filled with lessons that I carry for the rest of my career. And then, nearly 2 years after the whole ordeal with Dylan, fate threw us together again. One day, I was at a professional conference in New York, scheduled to give a keynote presentation, and I was both excited and nervous about the chance to speak in front of some of the industry's top leaders. As I was waiting in the green room, reviewing my notes, I heard a familiar voice from across the room. Dylan was standing by the coffee table, a little older, a little worn around the edges, but still trying to come across as confident and charming. Our eyes met across the room, and he froze, his smile fading as he recognized me. I gave him a polite nod, not sure how to react. I didn't want to cause a scene, especially here, but part of me was genuinely curious about what he'd been up to. After my keynote presentation, Jordan, it's been a while. It has, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. How are you? He gave a short, humorless laugh. I've been struggling to get back on my feet after everything that happened. Turns out, the industry is a lot smaller than I thought. Word gets around. I nodded. That's true. It follows you wherever you go. He looked down at his drink. You know, I never really understood what I was doing back then. I thought I was being ambitious, just doing what it took to get ahead. But I was wrong, and I hurt a lot of people along the way. I was quiet for a moment. So, what are you doing now? Dylan let out a sigh, looking a little defeated. I'm freelancing, trying to get contracts here and there, but it's rough. I had one good lead for a full-time job. He paused, glancing at me with an expression that was somewhere between hope and desperation. Jordan, I know I don't deserve it. Do you think you could put in a word for me? Just something to help me get back on my feet. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. Part of me wanted to say no, to remind him of all the pain and stress he put me through. But another part of me remembered how hard it was to climb back up after a fall, especially in an industry this unforgiving. Finally, I looked him in the eye and said, I'll tell you what, text Dylan. I can't give you a recommendation, but I can give you some advice. People don't want empty apologies or promises. They want to see proof that you've changed. If you want people to trust you again, start by showing them that you're worthy of it. Build yourself back up from the ground. It won't be easy and it won't be fast. But if you work hard and stay humble, maybe one day you learn back the respect you lost. Dylan nodded, his expression sobering. I understand, Jordan. I appreciate the honesty. Thank you, really. With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, pity, maybe even a little satisfaction. Dylan had finally hit rock bottom and seemed to understand the consequences of his actions. Whether he truly changed was up to him. As I flew back to Chicago the next day, I couldn't help but think about the confrontation, the hard-earned promotions, and the entire experience that had shaped me. I realized that it taught me lessons I wouldn't trade for anything. I've learned to stand up for myself, to trust my instincts, and to value honesty and integrity above all else. And so life went on. I continued growing in my career, making a name for myself and mentoring others along the way. Dylan had been the perfect example of what not to do and I learned more from that experience than I ever could have from a dozen success stories. In the end, Dylan's actions had, ironically, made me stronger. I knew how to play the game, but I also knew that I wanted to play on my own terms, with my reputation and integrity intact. Few years, one late afternoon, as I was preparing to leave, my assistant knocked on my door with a puzzled look. "Jordan, there's someone here asking for you. Says he doesn't have an appointment, but he insisted on seeing you." I didn't know if I should let him in. I raised an eyebrow. "Who is it?" She hesitated. "He said his name is Dylan." I hadn't heard from Dylan in years. Curiosity mixed with apprehension as I nodded. Moments later, Dylan walked into my office, and I barely recognized him. He looked older, not just physically, but in the way he carried himself. The cocky grin was gone, replaced by a more restrained, almost humble expression. "Jordan," he said, offering a faint smile. "Thanks for seeing me. I know this is unexpected." Dylan, I replied, keeping my tone neat. "This is a surprise. What brings you here?" He took a seat, exhaling deeply as he gathered his foot. "Look, I'll get right to it. I know I don't have any right to ask for your time, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important. I've been trying to make things right, since everything that happened." I watched him carefully, noting the exhaustion in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I took what you said back then seriously, about proving myself. I stopped trying to cut corners. I started small recommendation. It was hard, but I think I am finally starting to understand what it takes to build something real." He paused, looking down at his hand. "I'm at a place now where I need some advice. I'm at a crossroad." I raised an eyebrow, meeting my eyes directly. "Because you were right. You called me out on everything I was doing wrong, even when I was too arrogant to see it. You became everything I wanted to be, but I..." He hesitated, his voice quiet. I figured if anyone could steer me in the right direction, now it's you. I leaned back, processing everything he said. There was something wrong and vulnerable about him that I hadn't seen before. Maybe he had changed, or maybe he was just desperate. Either way, I felt the need to give him a shot at some honest guidance. "All right, tell me about this crossroads." He explained how he'd been offered a position as a project manager at a small firm that was struggling to grow. It was a decent opportunity, far from the prestigious firms he named, for in the past they were known for needing some serious structural and financial help. And it wouldn't be glamorous, but it was stable. I need to have a chance to build his reputation from the ground up. Off, he admitted, shifting uncomfortably. "It's not, but it's something." That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's the less glamorous work that teaches you the most. You can build real connections there, and if you do well, you'll be remembered as someone who came in when they needed it most. You'll earn more and respect. Dylan's shoulders relaxed a little. Do you think it's possible to rebuild from scratch? I mean, do people ever really get second chances in this industry? I took a long look at him. He seemed so different from Dylan, who laughed in my face all those years ago. I realized, maybe for the first time, that he was genuinely afraid. "If you put in the work and let your results speak for themselves," I said slowly, "people will notice. You won't have it easy, but with time, yes, it's possible. The question is, are you ready to do things the right way? Play even if no one's there to watch or give you credit." "Yeah, I am." I extended my hand. "Then go for it. Dylan, you've got a chance here. Don't waste it." He shook my hand, his grip firmer, a shadow of gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, Jordan, for everything. I'm sorry again for all the crap I put you through. You didn't deserve that." I gave him a nod, accepting the apology. "Good luck, Dylan. Make a way." He left my office, and for the first time I felt like we closed the chapter in a way that was right, not just for me, but for him. Maybe he'd finally found his way. After he left, was taking in the view of the city below. I come a long way since those early days of stress and sabotage, and I know I am every bit of where I was. The entire journey had made me who I was, as someone who valued honesty, hard work, and integrity above all else. As I turned back to my desk, I felt a sense of peace. I made it on my own terms, with my integrity intact. The satisfaction wasn't in beating Dylan anticipated, and as far as Dylan, hope you find his path and make the most of it. I've done my part, and now it was up to him. YouTube title: My coworker tried to sabotage my job. What happened next was shocking. Looking back at everything, I can't help but wonder if I handled the situation with Dylan in the best way possible. On one hand, I stood up for myself, protected my career, and ultimately achieved my goals. On the other hand, I also played a part in Dylan's downfall, and seeing him humbled and struggling was difficult. Even after everything he put me through, perhaps I could have done more to help him after he apologized. Or maybe offering him advice and guidance was the best approach I could have taken, given the circumstances. It's a complicated situation, and I am curious to hear your perspective. Do you think I was right to report him to HR, even though it cost him his job? Should I have given him a reference after he apologized? Or was it fair to hold him accountable for his actions? Was giving him that advice the best way forward? Or should I have stayed as far away as possible? And what would you have done differently in my shoes?